Hi, welcome back. Let's start where we left off. We're gonna talk about the most important modifying commands in AutoCAD. First up, the delete command, also known as erase. The purpose of this command is simple. It removes objects from your drawing, and there are two easy ways to do it. First option is type E for erase and press enter. Select the objects that you want to delete and press enter again to confirm. You can delete one object or multiple objects at once using any selection method. You can select before or after. The second option is better option. Just select the object and press your delete key and that's it. It's gone. Next up is copy command. This command lets you duplicate objects anywhere in your drawing. And here's how to use it. Type copy or just CO and press enter. Now select the object or objects you want to copy and press enter again. Next, AutoCAD will ask you for a base point. This is a starting point for the copy. Then you pick a second point and AutoCAD places the copy there. You can keep clicking to place multiple copies or press enter or escape to finish the command. Use OSnap to make sure your copy is placed exactly where you want it. And if you want your copy to move only vertically or horizontally, turn on Ortho mode. You can also choose object or objects before you enter the command. When you type copy, you'll see two options. Displacement. This lets you copy an object by specifying the exact distance and direction you want the copy to move without clicking a second point manually. So instead of clicking, you just type the X and Y values. So for example, 100 and 100, it will place your copy at those coordinates. The second option is mode. This toggles between multiple and single copy mode. I recommend leaving multiple on. Next is move command. The purpose of this command is to move selected objects from one point to another. You can start the command by typing move or just M and pressing enter. Alternatively, you can select the objects first and then type the command. Once you've selected your objects, you'll be asked to specify a base point. This is the point from which the object will move. Then, you will pick the second point to define the new location of your base point. And that's it, you've moved the objects. Instead of clicking the second time, you can also type in distance. So after choosing the base point, you need to type how far you want to move your object and hit enter. If you want to move your object only in one direction, for example horizontally, turn on Ortho mode by pressing F8. There's also a displacement option, so while in move command, you can type D and press enter to activate displacement. This allows you to input an exact X and Y movement. For example, 100 and 200 means 100 units in X direction and 200 units in Y direction. Now here's a really useful trick. Hold shift and right click to open a powerful snapping menu. From here you can choose, for example, from. This lets you set a custom base point and move the object relative to that. And meet between 2 points. This allows you to snap exactly between 2 points, which is perfect for centering objects. And by the way, all of those tricks from and meet between 2 points work also for copy command. Next command is rotate command. To start, you can either type rotate or just RO and press enter. Next, the command asks you to select objects. Select the object and click enter. You can also select the object before typing rotate, it doesn't matter. After that, you'll be asked to specify a base point. This is the pivot point around which the object will rotate. Then you can click to define the angle visually, or type in specific angle and press enter. Just remember, positive angles rotate counterclockwise and negative angles rotate clockwise. There's also a really useful feature called reference. Just type R and press enter. You'll be then asked to pick 2 points to define the current angle, then enter the new angle you want to rotate the object to. You can see the example on the screen if it's too confusing. This is the super handy tool when you want to rotate something to match a specific line or angle already in your drawing. Another great trick is that you can copy while rotating. So if you need 2 lines but one should be rotated, then you can just type C and press enter and you will rotate your object and you will also copy it at the same time. Next up is mirror command. This is one of the most powerful tools when you're working with symmetrical designs, and once you get used to it, you'll use it all the time. To start, type mirror or just MI and press enter. Then select the object or objects that you want to mirror. Once you've selected your objects, AutoCAD will ask you to specify the first point of the mirror line. This is the imaginary line that objects will reflect across. Then AutoCAD will ask you for the second point of that mirror line. After that, AutoCAD will ask erase source objects. If you type Y for yes and press enter, the original objects will be deleted. You'll be only left with the mirrored version. If you type N for no, both the original and mirror copy will stay. Next up is offset command. This tool lets you create a parallel copy of an object at a specific distance. It works with lines, polylines, arcs, circles, really anything. To use it, type offset or O and press enter. Just like before, you can pre-select your object first and then type O, it doesn't matter. After you select your object, now AutoCAD asks for the offset distance. You can simply type a number, for example 20, and click on the side of your object where you want the offset to go. So for example, look at this line. After typing 20, I'm choosing the right side of the line, and look, now we created a copy of this line. You have also extra options there. Through, type T and click enter. Then click a point. The offset will go through that point, ignoring numerical distance. Once the command is running, you can see options like multiple. It will create multiple copies of your object. Erase, you can choose whether the command will erase the original object or it will just stay there. And layer, type L to set if the offset will stay on the same layer as the original, or use the current one that you have already opened. Usually when people use offset, they just know what distance they want to offset the object, so they type a number. Next up is the group command. This command lets you combine multiple objects into one selectable unit, making it way easier to move, copy, or edit them together. To use it, just type group and press enter. Now select the objects you want to group. You can either do it this way or reverse order. You have also a couple optional settings. Name. This is great for quickly identifying the group later in Group Manager. And description. Here you can leave notes about what's inside the group or what it's used for. Once you're done, press enter and your group is ready. Now, an important setting for working with groups is PICKSTYLE. This controls how AutoCAD selects groups. On the screen you can see the cheat sheet for PICKSTYLE. I recommend leaving it at 1. To find or manage your groups later, you can either type group again or go to Home, Groups panel and Group Manager. In the Group Manager, you can select and highlight groups in the drawing, add or remove objects from a group, rename or update the description. One last tip, groups are not blocks. The objects inside remain independent and editable. You can temporarily ignore groups by setting PICKSTYLE to 0 or pressing CTRL+H to toggle group selection. And if you need to split them apart completely, just use the command ungroup. Next command is scale. This command is used to resize objects while keeping their proportions. You can make something larger or smaller without changing its shape. You can start it by typing SC or scale and pressing enter. Then select the object or objects you want to scale, press enter, and now AutoCAD asks for a base point. The base point is the anchor that stays fixed while the rest of the object resizes. You have two methods of scaling. First is using a scale factor. After choosing the base point, AutoCAD asks for a scale factor. If you type 2, the object becomes twice as big. If you type 0.5, the object shrinks to half the size. This is useful if you know the exact scaling ratio you need. But what if you don't know the factor and instead you know the actual size you want? So for the method 2, you can use reference. Let's use an example to explain the reference. Let's say I want to scale my door, which is 700 wide, but I want it to be 900 wide. After the base point, I type R for reference. Now AutoCAD asks for the reference length, the current size. I can either type 700 or just click 2 points across the door width. Next, it asks for the new length. I have to type 900. Now AutoCAD calculated the factor automatically and resized my door to exactly 900. This way, you don't have to do the math. AutoCAD does it for you. Instead of typing numbers, you can also click 2 points for the current length and then 2 points for the new length. That's useful when you want to fit something exactly between two walls or corners without needing to measure. The same door example can also be scaled by a scale factor. You can either do math on your calculator or you can type 900 divided by 700 and you have your door scaled up. Next command is align. This one is really powerful because it lets you move, rotate, and even scale objects in one command. First, type align and press enter. Select the object or objects you want to align, then press enter again. Now AutoCAD will ask you for source points and destination points. Source points are points you pick on the object itself, the points that you want to move, and destination points are the points in your drawing where those source points should land. So you basically tell AutoCAD, take this point here and move it exactly onto that point there. If you give AutoCAD one pair of points, the object just moves to that new location. If you give it 2 pairs of points, the object moves and also rotates, because AutoCAD lines up those two directions. If you give it 3 pairs of points, then AutoCAD will move, rotate, and even scale the object, so all 3 points match perfectly. After you finish picking points, AutoCAD will ask, do you want to scale the objects based on alignment points? If you type no, the object just moves and rotates but keeps its original size. If you type yes, then AutoCAD will resize the object so that the distances between your source points match the distances between the destination points. Next up is trim. Trim lets you cut off extra parts of objects. It works by using cutting edges, which are objects that act like a boundary or scissors. Here's how it works. Type TR or trim and press enter. In standard mode, AutoCAD will first ask you to select cutting edges. What are cutting edges? Cutting edges are the objects that AutoCAD uses as a limit for trimming. For example, if you have a rectangle and a line passing through it, the rectangle sides can act as a cutting edges. When you trim, AutoCAD will keep the part of the line that's inside the boundary and remove the part you click outside. Example, we have two walls and a door. We are looking from above it. Our walls are crossing the door, which shouldn't happen with the drawing. So now we select the lines of the door as our cutting edges, and then we click on the extra part of the walls that we want to remove. Now the walls are not crossing the door, which is perfect. Let's go back quickly to explain quick mode and standard mode. In quick mode, AutoCAD assumes every object in your drawing is a cutting edge. You don't need to pick them. Just click what you want to cut. In standard mode, you choose which objects will act as a cutting edges. That's useful when you don't want everything acting like a boundary. Extra tips. If you hold Shift and click, instead of trimming, it will extend the objects to the cutting edge. There's also a crossing option, which drags a box across multiple objects to trim them in one move. Undo option lets you bring back the last trimmed part. And that's it. Next up is fillet command. The fillet is used to create a rounded corner or sharp corner between two objects. To start, type fillet or just F and press enter. Then pick your first object and pick your second object. AutoCAD will automatically create a smooth arc or sharp corner between them. Now let's look at the options. First is radius. You can set how big the curve will be. For example, if I type radius 10, the fillet will create an arc with a 10 unit radius between the objects. If I set radius to 0, the object just meets with a sharp corner. Trim option. This controls whether the extra pieces of the objects are trimmed away or kept. Polyline. This option applies fillet to every corner of a polyline in one step. Multiple lets you keep using the fillet command on multiple pairs without restarting. Now here's something very important. Which side you click on matters. For example, let's look at my drawing. I have two lines crossing. I want to keep the bottom part of the vertical line and right part of the horizontal line. Using fillet, I need to click on the right part and the bottom part. So the rule is simple. Click on the part of the objects that you want to keep. The other part of the object will disappear. Next is stretch command. The stretch command is a little different than most modifying commands, because it doesn't work with a regular selection. You need to drag your mouse from right to left when selecting for it to work. Type stretch or just S and press enter. Drag your mouse from right to left to select your objects. Pick a base point, then the second point. This defines how far and in what direction you're stretching. Now let me explain on an example. I've got a door drawn here and I want to make it wider. If I create a crossing window just over the edge of the door, AutoCAD will stretch that edge out while keeping the rest of the door in place. This way I can make the opening bigger without redrawing the door. What's important in this command is how you select the objects. If the whole door inside in the crossing window is selected, AutoCAD will move the door instead of stretching it. If only I select the edge or an endpoint, only that part will be stretched. Now I have a window right next to the door. If I want to move the window upwards and stretch the door upwards, I need to select all of the window and only the upper part of my door. In that case, AutoCAD will stretch the door and move the window. So in short, if you only select the part of the object, it will stretch this part. If you select the whole object, it will move this object. Next command is divide. This one is useful when you want to split an object into equal segments, not by cutting it, but by placing points or blocks along it. To start it, type divide and press enter. Now AutoCAD will ask you to select an object. Let's pick this line. Then it will ask you for number of segments. Let's say 5. And look, AutoCAD placed 4 equally spaced points along the line. Remember, these are not new objects, they are just point markers. If you don't see them clearly, you can type DDPTYPE and change how points look. For example, let's choose this. There's also a block option. If I type B, I can choose a block instead of points. For example, let's pick a chair block. AutoCAD asks if I want to align the block with the object. If I type yes, the blocks will rotate to follow the curve. One important note, in this command you cannot select an object before typing the command, because if you do, AutoCAD will still ask you to select it again. Let's do an example. As you can see, I have a table and I want to place 2 chairs equally spaced along one side. So let's use divide. Let's select a side of the table. Now let's choose a block, our chair block. And now we need to type 3, because AutoCAD divides this line into 3 parts. So it will place 2 chairs. Because you can see we have 3 parts here, but we have 2 divider markers. Now let's talk about undo and redo. This one is really simple, but it's really important. To undo your last action, you can press CTRL+Z or type U in the command line and press enter. Also, you can look at the top ribbon. There's also an undo button with a drop down. That drop down is really useful because you can actually go back multiple steps at once, not just one. Now, if you undo something by mistake, you don't need to redraw it, just use redo. You can press CTRL+Y or click the redo arrow in the ribbon. That will bring back the step you just undid. But remember, redo only works right after undo. If you make a new action in between, the redo history is gone. Now, let's talk about copy and paste shortcuts in AutoCAD. They are really useful if you want to copy and paste some stuff in between different drawings. First, let's talk about CTRL+C. This command simply copies objects to the clipboard, but remember, AutoCAD uses the original coordinate system of those objects. That means if you paste them back with CTRL+V, they will appear in the exact same spot. If you paste them into a different drawing, they'll be placed at the same coordinates relative to the drawing's origin. Now, CTRL+SHIFT+C is a bit different. It's called copy with a base point. After selecting your objects, AutoCAD asks you to pick a base point. Then, when you paste it with CTRL+V, the object followed that base point and you can place it anywhere, much more precise. As I said, CTRL+V is your standard paste. If you copied something, you can paste it using this command. Finally, CTRL+SHIFT+V pastes your object as a block. This creates a temporary block out of pasted objects, which you can explode later if you want. It's useful if you want everything to stay together as one unit when pasting. So remember, CTRL+C, it chooses the original coordinate system as your base point. CTRL+SHIFT+C, you can choose your base point when copying. CTRL+V, it just pastes. CTRL+SHIFT+V pastes as a block. I usually use CTRL+SHIFT+C and CTRL+V. And now the last command in this video, the DIST command. DIST is short for distance, and it's really useful and it's really simple. It lets you measure distances and angles without actually placing dimensions. Here's how it works. Type DIST and press enter, or distance and press enter. Pick your first point, then your second point. AutoCAD will tell you the distance along with the change in X, the change in Y, and the angle between those points. Now there are some extra options worth knowing. If you type M for multiple points, you can keep clicking point after point. AutoCAD will show you the distance between each pair and also will give you a total. That's super handy if you want to check the perimeter of the room or trace an irregular path. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. I know I left out a couple of commands, but honestly they're not that essential for beginners right now. I think I'll cover them later in separate video, or maybe I'll post them as a quick shorts so you can still learn them easily. In the next video we'll start working with dimensions, setting up layers, text styles and dimension styles, so you will be able to make your drawings clean and professional. Thank you so much again. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.